And now our watch is ended. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Technical Critic, and well, I just finished watching the last episode of Game of Thrones, and quite honestly, I don't know why I watched this series. It was extremely underwhelming. But before I continue on with the rest of this critique, I'm going to ask you to like, favorite, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment in the section, because I know that in my last episode I said this is the last chance to do comments, and of the 7 of you that watched it, 1 of you left a comment, which is actually a better spread than the 190 of you that watched the 2 previous episodes before that, because none of you commented there. And I will do discussion with the comments after the episode, but leave a comment down below for this final episode and for the season. When I do the season recap, I'm going to just have a big discussion about all your comments. So leave a comment. I promise I'll discuss them. So this episode is called The Children, and quite honestly, I'm not even sure the build-up to this episode was worth it, because quite frankly, nothing happened that, except maybe for the Tyrion plot line, that was fulfilled. This episode was just fine. I'm not saying it's a bad episode, but a lot of people are saying that in the episode 9 with the Battle of the Wall, nothing happened. No. In this episode, almost nothing happened. Because, quite frankly, I feel like some of the things that happened, you could literally have lifted them from this episode, whether it was Jon's storyline, Daenerys' storyline, maybe not Arya's storyline between her and the Hound. I did feel like that needed to end where it did. Or Stannis' storyline. You could have lifted any of those and stuck them in the season 5, episode 1. And you would have lost nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. Because just the things that happened, I know that they're setting up for some stuff, but what has happened is it's mediocre at best. There's nothing for you to sink your teeth into. There's nothing that says, listen, come back in 1 year, because remember, it takes a whole year, a whole cycle of the Earth around the sun, before we get to sit here and watch Game of Thrones again. There's nothing there that says, come back in a year, chomp at the bit for a whole year, and I promise you it will be worth it. Not a thing. We're just tying up loose ends. And that's fine, but I honestly don't think that it was necessary. So I don't think I could continue to review this episode without spoiling it. So spoiler stick is up. My episode rating would be, let's see, I give episode 9 a 9 out of 10 because you could skip it. I wouldn't say that you could skip this episode. No, this is an episode you have to watch, but it's simply housekeeping. So I'm also going to give it, I'm going to rate it a little bit higher. I'm going to give it 9.25 out of 12, because this is a very hard sit. This is a very hard sit. It really does harken back quite a bit to some of the major housekeeping episodes that we did in season 3. And I guess at some point you do have to keep house, especially with a lot of the heavy plots that they dropped in episode 8. But honestly, that's the thing with Game of Thrones. They give you what you want. Like, this episode gave us everything we wanted. You want to see Stannis do something? Great, you'll see Stannis do something. You want to see Brann's quest come to some kind of fruition? Fine, we'll give you Brann's quest come to some kind of fruition. You want to see dragons? Great, you'll see dragons. You want to see Tyrion? You want to see Tyrion's fate? Great, we'll give you Tyrion's fate. But that's the thing with Game of Thrones. It doesn't matter what you demand, you're going to get exactly what you demand. And this is true for anything that's ever happened in Game of Thrones. They give you what you want, but in a way that makes you not want it anymore. For example, let's look at two things that happen. Let's look at Theon Greyjoy. When he turned on the Starks and took over Winterfell, killed those two farm kids, people were outraged. Like, this guy needs this. Don't just kill this guy. Do worse to this guy than kill him. And Ramsay Snow was the answer to that. And literally, not even halfway through his torture, people were like, okay, that's enough. Stop it. It's too much. It's too much. We can't watch it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Now people are on his side because of that. When Joffrey died, and I think that this is the major one, people, since season 1, have wanted to see Joffrey's head on a pike. They wanted... I guarantee you there was a group out there that was plotting to kill the actor who played Joffrey just so that Joffrey would die. People were like, if that motherfucker doesn't die, I'm going to slit his throat myself. And it's like, well, when we finally did get Joffrey's death, it was, yes, we got Joffrey's death. And to myself and several other people, it was very satisfying to see him die. But to a lot of other people, it was quite unsatisfying because he didn't die in a way that was satisfactory. He didn't die he may have died sniveling and crying, but he didn't die as a king. He died as a child, being strangled by his own blood with his skin peeling off his face, looking pleadingly at his mother to do something. People were like, no, that I can't, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to see him die in some kind of justified finally getting what he deserved, getting some kind of justice for all the terrible things he did, like maybe his head getting sliced off by guillotine by the people as they revolt, or something like that, right? But no, not the way he did. People are, and that's just an example of how you get everything that you want with Game of Thrones, but never the way you want it. It's like, it's like a genie wish. You always get what you want, but never the way you need it. So it's just the way Game of Thrones operates. So let's review. Let's review with the spoilers. Okay? Spoiler stick is up. I've been holding it this whole time, but still, spoiler stick is up. So the episode opens right where we left off with Jon Snow. He's going out to go see Mance Rayder. He sees Mance Rayder, and instead of just killing him on the spot like any smart leader would do, Mance does the honorable thing. He brings him into his tent, and he says, and he basically talks to him. Even though he's a traitor, and even though he's come to kill him, and what's more, they know that he's come to kill him, because as soon as Jon tries something, he's like, they pin him down and they put a knife to his throat, and they're like, really, you think that you're going to kill me in my own tent? And honestly, it was not the way to go. It truly was not. If Jon was going to kill Mance Rayder, the very least he could have done is asked him for some kind of single combat. Instead of trying to be sneaky about it. Because, quite frankly, no, it was not good for Jon. It just, nothing that happened. How do I put this? Jon is not an assassin. He is Mr. Upright, Mr. Moral. So for him to go and try to, it's completely out of character. And it was just like they sit, they drink, they talk, and then I didn't even see how he tried. I think he might have like grabbed a knife, like looked at a knife or something, and like Mance might have gotten the thing like, okay, now he's gonna try and kill me. So basically he's like, really, you're gonna try and kill me like this? And just before Jon bites it, and quite frankly, I don't know why they didn't just let Jon bite it. I mean, think about it. Of all the characters in Game of Thrones that have died, right, from the insignificant to the most lovable, all the interesting and compelling characters that we've killed. You're telling me that you can't kill the one character that honestly almost no one cares about. He is literally the most boring character in this entire series. Podrick's horse is more interesting than Jon, because you want to know why? Because Podrick is at least riding on him. There, as his character is just, there's just nothing there. There's nothing there. As bad as Bronn's storyline is, Jon's is worse, because it's just him brooding. It's just him brooding. It's always him brooding. But Stannis decides to ride in right at that moment to Deus Ex Machina his ass. And honestly, you could have knocked me over with a feather when that happened. When Stannis and the Onion Knight came riding in, it was the most surprising thing. I mean, of all of the ravens that Maester Targaryen sent out, that Stannis, of all people, would be the one to come and answer. The one who has no army and literally had to go begging to Braavos for, not even him begging. The Onion Knight had to make the case. It wasn't that he came and he's like, look, I'm the best one for the job. The Bank of Braavos basically turned, they're like, no, you're not the leader we're looking for. We have stability. The Onion Knight basically had to make the case that, look, Tywin is going to die at some point. You need a strong leader, and here's your leader. He's the right age, he's the right experience. This is who you want. So basically they picked up their mercenaries, and when they were setting sail, I didn't know where they were setting sail for. I figured, well, you know what? They might be going to recruit some more guys to find some ships, buy them, and then go and try the invasion of King's Landing again. But quite frankly, the invasion by water didn't work, so I guess Stannis decided I gotta do an invasion by land. And here's the perfect excuse to go north of the wall and then just come down through the wall. Literally no one would expect it. And I guess that they're setting up here that it's going to be the Boltons versus the Baratheons for the next season, because Ramsay and Lord Bolton just took control of Winterfell after taking control of Moat Cailin. So I guess the two of them are going to battle out in the next season, and then whoever wins there, that's going to be who puts pressure on King's Landing. Will they win? Probably. I hope that something more interesting happens there, but that's basically what happens. Jon, they're like, well, what do we do with Mance Rayder? He's like, listen, take him prisoner, but listen to what he has to say. So the wildlings are going to come into play somewhere, with something to do with the wall, obviously. And then we cut to the burning of it. We cut to King's Landing, and then we cut back to the wall after all that is finished, just so that we could say goodbye to Ygritte's body. It's not like we didn't see her die and hear her final words. No, now we have to see Jon. First of all, we have to see them burn all the bodies of the Night's Watch. Then we have to listen. To Giant Spain ask Jon if he loved Ygritte, and then we have to watch Jon build a pyre for Ygritte. And when I say build a pyre, I don't mean, oh, he goes there, the pyre is there, he places a body down, lights up. Nope. We see him, we literally spend 2 minutes of him sticking wood into the pyre around Ygritte and then lighting her on fire. And then him walking away as the fire catches, and just the look, and just the same stone cold look on his face. He's never going to smile. He doesn't smile as it is, but if he ever was going to crack a smile, now he never will. So that's the end of Jon Snow's storyline. Hopefully for a good long time, because there's just nothing to it. There's nothing to it. So that's Jon Snow's storyline done. And then we move on, of course, to King's Landing, where Cersei essentially tells her dad to fuck off. After everything that happened, this episode is basically about, one, what happens at the wall to set up for next season, what happens to set up for next season in Westeros with Daenerys, and the unraveling of Tywin's legacy. Because Cersei goes and basically says, look, I'm not marrying the gay knight. You can yell, you can scream, you can do what you want, but I'm not marrying him. And here's the reason why. If you try anything, I'm gonna tell the world that I'm just gonna tell the world the truth. I want to fuck my brother, and I'm going to continue to fuck my brother, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's basically what that scene is. Oh, also we got some stuff with the mountain about they're going to try and save the mountain, but apparently he's going to get mutant superpowers from the Not Maester's treatment of him. And apparently that turns Cersei on, which is strange. But okay, so I guess we're going to turn him into a mutant. Also, we finished the story arc with Jaime and Cersei. Cersei then goes and sees her brother, and literally, he goes from hating her to loving her in seconds. It basically starts out, well, you've got what you wanted. You're killing one of your own family. And she basically goes, listen, I'm staying in King's Landing so I can give you blowjobs. And he's like, well, okay. Books off the table, lays her down. I guess that entire rape scene in Joffrey's tomb is completely forgiven. So it only took her standing up to her father for that to happen, but literally he goes from hating her to loving her in seconds. In literally seconds. You see it happen where he basically goes, he's not responsible for the death of our mother. And then she basically just kisses him, and that's it. It's all turned. It is turned in a kiss and a half. So that's the end of their storyline. And then cut to Daenerys. She's in Marine, and two things happen that are of great interest. One, she gets spoken to by one of the elder slaves, who had a position of dignity. He had worked as a slave all of his life, but as one of the more educated slaves, he was a teacher, and now cast out, he feels less. He feels less than what he was, so he wants to go back as a slave to his master's house. And basically, Daenerys says, "Fine, but I'll let you and him sign some kind of contract, but it cannot be for more than a year." And Sir Barrister basically goes, "The master's going to take advantage of this," and without answering, they cut to the next story that's going on there. If we could talk about that for a second. I feel like if an educated man comes to you, even though he's a slave, you could find some use for these elderly slaves. Find some way to protect. You can find some use for their expertise. Don't just let them go back to their masters. You have a hole in your advisory position. Now, mind you, this might be something that Varys has been plotting, sending little birds to go and spy on her, but which is honestly what I thought. I just thought, okay, well, here comes one of Varys' birds to spy on her. But it turned into a completely different plot, but don't do that. Don't do that. You can find so many other things to do. So we're basically setting up a problem of intrigue, mind you. This is going to become a problem of intrigue. So we're going to finally get some intrigue in Daenerys' storyline. So that might be good. So we have a problem of intrigue getting set up, and then we get a dead child. It finally happened. One of the dragons killed the kid, and basically the guy goes in. He says the big black one came and burned the child to death, and he basically lays down the bundle. You think he's holding a baby, and he opens it up, and it's just a blackened set of charred bones. And Daenerys is clearly very physically distraught by what happened. She basically goes. She takes her two remaining dragons, the ones that she has, and she chains them up in the catacombs beneath her keep. So she's essentially put chains on her dragons, which is fine. She needs to tame her dragons. She's let them run wild for too long, and I can honestly, but I don't think that this is what's going to happen. I think this is the beginning of the unraveling of Daenerys' storyline. So the thread that was pulled that started this was Sergei's dismissal. But the chaining up of her dragons, clearly between her and her dragons, something has now been broken. So it's going to be interesting to see how that storyline, because up till now she's had her dragons, she's had control of her dragons, and basically they've been unfailing to her. They've done whatever she said. She just has to point and say it's Alcaraz, and they go. And that's the thing. The bond that she has between her dragons is more valuable than any bond she will ever have with any person, because her dragons are the one thing that make her powerful. It's not the fact that she has this army. No. Why do they follow her? Why did anyone follow her? It's after the whole thing with Khal Drogo dying. It's because she had dragons. Because she has an edge and an advantage that nobody else had. And now she's put a strain on that relationship. The trust of a dragon, especially in fantasy, the trust of a dragon for its... I don't want to say dragon master, because she's not their master. But the trust that the dragons have for their mother, I feel like in just one move, it just hammers home just how vulnerable she is. She has essentially in one move disabled her greatest weapon, and it is extremely dangerous, and where that plotline is going, I don't know, but it will be interesting to watch. So that's something that would be interesting to see, I suppose, for the next season. And I completely forgot about this, but I just recall it. Brann is in this story. Surprise, surprise. We finally see him reach his tree. There's this great shot where they reach the tree, or they see the tree on the hill. And then they're walking towards the tree across a frozen lake, and then just skeletal hands start to come up, and it's skeletons coming up out of the ice. To be quite honest, the skeletons look like animated skeletons from the 90s. I guess that upgrading the CGI for skeletons hasn't been a priority for animation anywhere for the last 20 years, but oh well, what are you going to do? So it looks like they're about to bite it, because the skeletons go and they murder the brother of that girl who almost got raped at Craster's Keep. I cannot remember their names, because quite honestly, they don't appear enough in this show for me to remember. It's been a year and a bit, and they've only popped up twice at most. But enough of that. So the zombie skeletons, they stab him, and then Brann has possessed Holdor to beat off the zombies, but even that's not working, and it looks like they're about to bite it. It's like, finally. But it being pushed out of a window couldn't kill him. A bunch of ice zombies aren't going to, because an Impling appears. I suppose they call them the children in the Game of Thrones series, according to them. I suppose that you would call them the Jinni here. I suppose that is what our modern term for it would be. But she basically appears and she says, well, come with me if you want to live. So the Holdor grabs Brann, drags him inside. The girl looks at her brother, looks at the skeleton. She slits his throat so that he doesn't die, and then she proceeds to run. The child goes and blasts that thing with fire, and thank goodness, we finally see some real magic in Game of Thrones. I mean, or not some real magic, some big magic, because we've seen things like blood magic happen with the raising of the dead and the leeches and the birthing of the Vag monster, as we all call her, or him, or whatever it was that killed Baratheon's brother. But to see actually some over-the-top, bam, bam, magic actually being used to fight someone, this is good. It is stout. It is a little bit over the top when you think about it, but just it feels right that in this place where the dead rise up from lakes to try and claim the living as theirs, that there should exist some kind of creature that could just over the top blast them with fire. It seems like a proper defensive mechanism, and that it fits that it fits within this thing of fire and ice, fire and ice, fire and ice, the two constantly battling each other. So that happens, and they finally make it to this tree. And what happens at the tree? What is the grand reveal that Anthony Hopkins is brought in to give us? You will regain what you have lost. And Brann literally goes, so I'll be able to walk again. No, but you will be able to fly. I don't know what you guys are trying to set up for 3 or 6 seasons down the line from now. But quite frankly, and I say this with no malice or anything, but if Brann had died falling out of that tower, Game of Thrones would literally be absolutely no different from what has happened with his storyline. As a matter of fact, the intrigue that would have happened with the investigation of Brann's death would probably have been even more intriguing, because now the Starks have to furiously pursue the Lannisters to find out who killed their kid. Because let's face it, the Lannisters are there with the Baratheons at the exact same time that your kid is pushed out of a tower window. That's not, and dies. That's not. It makes the intrigue even. It would make the intrigue. You could literally rework it so that you would literally get the exact same story path, and nothing would change if Brann had died. And quite frankly, we wasted so much time on this storyline. I don't know what they're setting up, but this is a Hail Mary pass. It is quite frankly, the Three-Eyed Raven. Anthony Hopkins as the Three-Eyed Raven. He's great. He is that wise, sageous old man as he was in Noah. But all of this build-up, all this time, it's been 4 years. Think about that. 4 years of your life have passed. Another FIFA World Cup has come and gone. 2012, we were supposed to be destroyed by a Mayan meteorite carrying fire zombies or something or other. What was that whole thing in 2013 where I don't. Just think of everything that's happened in 4 years. And then look at Game of Thrones. We've been on this storyline for 4 years and it has not paid off. It will never pay off. At least with Daenerys, we get to see some kind of growth. With Brann, it's the exact same thing. It's just, he's being passed from one group of people to another, and apparently he is the special. But I don't see it. I do not see it. They are wasting so much precious time with this storyline. I mean, think about it. Craster's Keep. You could have completely worked him out of Craster's Keep, and nothing there would have changed. You could have worked it out of just everything. You could have worked it out of Sam's plotline. It would make no difference. It honestly would not. And of course, there's still the missing Stark brother, Brann's younger brother, whose name, again, I do not remember because he was not present at all for this entire series. Or for this entire season, I should say. So, yeah, that's my rant on Brann. Take it or leave it, but I completely disagree with the amount of time that was invested in Season 3 and in Season 4 with his story. It's just not there. There's nothing there for us to hang on to that says, just wait. Whatever you're setting up, it is not nearly worth this dragged out storyline. But now, at least, at the very end of all things, we finally get to Tyrion the Tyrion part of the episode. We waited and we waited and there's Arya. I'm going to talk about Arya later. But let's get to the Tyrion bit. So Tyrion, as we know, has been sentenced to death. We see him lying in his cell. The door opens and there's Jaime to save the day. Apparently Cersei Snatch is not powerful enough to make him hate his brother. And it turns out that Varys is behind this whole thing. He is rescuing him. Jaime basically points to a hallway. He says, you go up here, you knock on the door twice, and then twice again. Varys will open it, and you will escape. Perfect. Jaime leaves. Tyrion looks at the stairway, and he gets his look. He has that crazy look in his eye. You know what? I've got some stuff to finish. He goes up through a trapdoor. I don't even know how he got to the trapdoor. That is never explained. But apparently he knows his way around King's Landing well enough that he gets to this trapdoor. He gets into Joffrey's chamber. He grabs his crossbow and he heads to the Tower of the Hand. You know this because you just see a line to where he's going. He's going to see his father. He enters the room where his father is supposed to be sleeping. You know I didn't know it was a Tower of the Hand until I saw the sigil of the yeah, it looks like this. Yes, so I saw this sigil that briefly flashed. That's for people like me who don't catch things that easily. So he goes. There's a woman lying in the bed. Who could it possibly be? It's Shay. Shay is lying in the bed. Shay wakes up, sees him, and immediately grabs a knife from a fruit bowl and tries to kill him. Maybe because she saw he had a crossbow and she thought, okay, he's finally come to kill me, so she grabbed a knife and tried to defend herself. But Tyrion, he takes the knife away. They're fighting and they're wrestling in bed. You're like, what the heck is going on? What is the point of this scene? And it ends up that the two of them fighting each other, he ends up strangling her with her own necklace. And then he just sits there going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I guess, well, I guess that was the way that they decided they're going to finish up that storyline. And I suppose now we will never know why Shay betrayed Tyrion. I had hoped that we would have some kind of explanation, but I guess that this is just their way of being like, suck it, watchers, you gotta read the books. And all the book readers going, muhaha. So that happens. And then the big secret scene that you didn't know you were waiting for, but when you watch it, you're intrigued nonetheless. So Tyrion goes into this little passageway. There's a torch. And who does he come up? He's dragging his crossbow. Who does he come upon but his father? He levels the crossbow and he literally catches his father with his pants down. And for those of you who have never pointed a firearm at your dad in complete and utter anger, I sympathize. I really do sympathize with Tyrion. I can honestly say I do. I've had some times where I'm like, you know what? If I shot you right now, I feel like I wouldn't regret a thing. So. And it's on Father's Day, so it's perfect. It is perfect. The timing for everything is perfect. I feel like they did this specifically to coincide with Father's Day to try and make some kind of statement. If you continue to if you continue to try to manipulate your kids, eventually at some point they're going to catch you with your pants down, and then you're going to get shot. Maybe that's what they're saying. I don't know. I don't want to shoot my dad. I'm just saying there have been times when seems like the best option. And if you've ever been angry, you know, if you've ever been angry, it's just, But basically, it's a metaphor, really. He catches Tywin with his pants down. Tywin, who is this crafter of great grand operas, symphonies that move the heavens and the earth of politics around King's Landing. He's basically trying every tactic he has to worm his way out of this situation, because when your son is pointing a crossbow at you, you as a dad have seriously fucked up. He knows this. He knows he knows he's in the wrong, but still he's trying to wheedle his way out. He's trying to wheedle his way out of this undignified position so that he can get back to his rooms and probably call the guards or make this some kind of statement that he needs to. Whatever it is, we know he's lying. But he basically goes, did you really think I was going to let them kill you? You're a Lannister. He's basically playing into that daddy love me complex. That's been a big thing with this episode. It's been a lot of please pay attention to me, father figures. Especially with Tyrion. Tyrion has always wanted the respect and admiration of his father. And basically that's what Tywin said. He goes, you know what? I've been trying to kill you, but you refuse to die. I admire and respect that. I honestly do. And then he's basically laying it on really, really thick. And Tyrion is standing there. You can tell just by his eyes. Peter Dinklage has these wonderful eyes that just tell all of his emotion. That he almost believes it, but you can see in his head, his brain is telling him, don't listen. Snap out of it. You know that this is wrong. You come and you do what you come, and you come here and you do what you come to do. So basically goes, he shoots his father once as a warning shot, and then he goes, he doesn't kill him obviously, and he gets his father to finally admit in that anger and pain are the best ways of getting people you don't like to tell the truth, because if they're lying, I don't know what it is, as soon as that pain hits them, it's just everything that they actually want to say it just splooges out. Anger is the best way to get someone to tell the truth. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. It's not love, it's anger. Love is what lets you be manipulated, especially here in the Game of Thrones. So he shoots him and he goes, you knew I was innocent. Why would you let them kill? Why were you going to let them kill me? And basically, at this point, Tyrion honestly thinks, and I do believe it, Tyrion thinks that Tywin killed Joffrey. You and I know Tywin did not kill Joffrey. It was Littlefinger. But as I said, everything that happened so perfectly to fall into Tywin's lap that we as the viewer in the beginning, and Tyrion here, rightfully so, cannot help but assume that Tywin is at the center of this. Tywin had something to do with this plot. And even look at the Queen of Thorns, Grandma Martell, not Martell. Let's just call her the Queen of Thorns. The Queen of Thorns and Tywin, they were thick as thieves while they were in King's Landing, and then suddenly the boy dies, she leaves. It seems if she didn't let him in on it, I feel like he strongly suspected. And he only went along with it because he knew that rocking the boat would cause the instability that would cause his family to fall. And basically here in this lavatory, all of his grand schemes, his plans on ruling through his last grandson, everything that he has done in his entire life, in his 76 years on Westeros, is coming to an end. All because he did not take into account the fact that his son, the imp, the one who he actively despised and hated most, would finally go enough is enough and turn on him. That's Tywin's weak spot. Tywin has always relied on the fact that he is the most powerful, and because of that, no one will ever turn on him, especially his family, and as such, he's able to manipulate them however he wants to. And when it happens, you can tell he's just absolutely unprepared for this situation. He has no plan. He is literally making it up as he goes. And Tyrion Tyrion essentially talks to his father. It's like the last ditch effort. He tells his father, "I strangled Shay in there. I literally just killed the woman I love." And Tywin, being forever the imbecile in terms of his son, goes, "Oh, she was just a whore." He goes, "Say that again, and I'll shoot you." Why? She was, and then basically they talk, and then Tywin gets angry and he calls Shay a whore, and the second he says it offhandedly, boom, second arrow, right through the heart, and there Tywin lies dying in the privy, literally dying in his own shit. It is, and he is one of the best characters. Don't get me wrong. I don't say I'm on Tywin's side, but I like him. He's one of those characters that's so evil that you cannot help but respect him. He is a power player, and you can't help but like that in him. And quite frankly, the actor, quite frankly, didn't inhabit his role, and I'm going to miss him. Why'd they kill him off? I don't know. Maybe he asked for a pay raise. But it seems that he ended up dying in a toilet instead. So, and that's not even the end of it. So, Tyrion's finished killing his father. He's essentially done the worst thing he possibly could. He's killed the woman he loves and the man he despises. So essentially he's now purposeless. He goes to Varys. Varys takes one look at him and he knows that something is awry. He goes, "What have you done?" At this point, though, it doesn't matter. They go down to the docks. He puts him in a crate, seals it shut, puts him on the boat. He watches the crate get loaded. He turns around and he's ready to go back. And then he hears the bell ring. Ding, 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 announcing the death. He looks up, he looks back at the ship, and essentially Varys has thrown away everything just for the sake of Tyrion. And it is true, because he goes and he sits down beside the crate, and he has a look of them, and just the way he's looking, he's staring off into that blank empty space right about here. He has the look of a man who has truly just lost everything. He put everything on the line to try and save Tyrion because he was his friend, because he respected him, because he saved the city, and basically was just like him. The two of them were so alike that he's like, you know what? I let one honorable man go with the death of Ned Stark. I've got to save this one. And quite frankly, I do think Varys could have saved Eddard Stark. It's just that maybe he really did truly believe that if Stark confessed, he would be sent to the wall and be saved. Maybe he truly believed, but let's face it, Joffrey was a terrible person from the beginning. He must have at the very least suspected that this was not going to go the way he planned. But basically, Varys leaves, and it's going to be the eunuch and the imp in the free cities. So so that will be interesting to see how the eunuch and the imp, they work together to try and rebuild essentially what they lost. But basically, and this is very interesting, with the death of Tywin, and which was essentially this thing that was put into motion by Varys that very night. This whole thing has essentially let Littlefinger win. If you look at the entire Game of Thrones, it has absolutely nothing to do with any of the characters that we've seen. Daenerys and Jon Snow, they're at the very extremes. They're on the outside. They've always been on the outside. They always will be on the outside. But when you look at the Game of Thrones, as it's being played, it's got nothing to do with Tywin. It's got nothing to do with the Starks or the Lannisters or the Baratheons. It has to do with two men, Littlefinger and Varys. Varys, who wants to preserve the realm and keep it from falling into chaos, and Littlefinger, who uses the chaos to make himself more and more powerful. It's basically a chess match with living people between these two. And Varys made the wrong move. The move he made has literally just thrown everything into chaos. And now is the rise of Littlefinger. Littlefinger is coming back to King's Landing with Sansa, may I add. Tywin is dead. The imp is gone. And Cersei... So, essentially, Season 5 is just ripe and set for Littlefinger to take control. I'm not sure if that's going to make it... I'm not sure how that's going to affect the series, but quite honestly, again, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And finally, just as a side note, Arya and the Hound storyline finally finishes up. So, it happens with an intersection between Podrick's storyline and Arya's storyline. So, Lady Brienne and Podrick, they wake up, the horses are gone. She chastises him and begins to look around, and who does she happen to run into coming back the opposite way from the Vale but Arya? she and the Hound meet, and of course the two of them fight each other. And here is a kind of good guy facing off an absolutely good guy, and seeing just these two excellent fighters hammer away at each other. It was fine, but again, it was absolutely unnecessary as far as the episode was concerned. It was a good way. It was a way to finish up Arya's storyline, but quite frankly, there was no reason for it to happen. Like, why did Arya and the Hound turn back? They mention it. The show almost became self-aware at a moment where Brann is like, "I'm here to protect you," and the Hound goes, "Oh, and where are you going to take her to protect her? Her sister is dead. Her aunt is dead. Her mother is dead. All these people are dead." While it's true that there's, or at least that they think, no one that they know is left alive, why would they still not go into the Vale? Yes, Lysa is dead, but there's still her cousin, crazy as he is, and what's more, they're the Lords of the Vale, and they might not be her blood relatives, although, to be fair, they might be related to Lysa through marriage or some kind of these things are complicated, but there's no reason to, at the very least, not try and see if there's someone in the Vale who's willing to protect her. And why would they not be willing to protect her? She's a Stark. She is one of the Wardens of the North. The Vale is of the North. They're allies with each other. It makes absolutely no sense for the Hound and Arya to turn back. And that is literally the point where the show becomes slightly self-aware. So then Brann is, so you're protecting her, and they're basically sizing each other up. And then they decide, you know what, we're going to kick each other's asses to see who's worthy of protecting Arya. And they battle, and it's to see these two extremely good fighters, with Brienne, who is supposed to be this pillar of honor, and the Hound, who's supposed to be just this killer who will do anything to win. The two of them fighting each other is literally... The weird thing is they're both good guys, and at no point do they ever go, you know what, we're both good guys, we both want to protect Arya. No. They're like, no, that we're going to have a pissing contest to see who could protect Arya better. And they go at it. Like, it's a wonderful battle to watch, but honestly, there's no point to it. The only purpose it serves is to get the Hound out of the way so that Arya can finally get on with a storyline that was so heavily hinted at in Season 3 that if they had smash cut to the scene at the end of this episode with Arya from the time she receives the coin, the iron coin, quite frankly, you would not have missed that much. Except maybe for her getting Needle back, and there would have been... We probably could have seen her get Needle back in a flashback, quite frankly. But I digress. So they're fighting each other. They start off fighting with their swords, and it's wonderful. And then it just basically turns into an all-out brawl, where they are using all the dirty tactics they can. She kicks him in the balls. She punches him in the balls. He kicks her in the crotch. Which, I don't care who you are, how bad or evil you are, you don't kick a woman in the crotch. It doesn't matter if she's trying to kill you. You do not kick a woman in the crotch. There is no call for there. At no time is there ever call. There's no excuse on the planet, in fiction or non-fiction, that you could ever come up with for kicking a woman in the crotch. If there is, put it in the comments. I want to hear this, and I will argue with you to the very end. So basically, Brienne goes. She punches him off a cliff. He falls off a cliff, breaks every bone in his body. He's still alive, so we have a nice little bit of exposition at the end. They're busy screaming for Arya. Podrick was so busy watching the fight, like all of us, that he completely took his eyes off Arya, so she gets to escape. She climbs down the mountain. She's sitting beside the Hound, and she just has the blank look of a cat. She's looking at him like a cat, basically deciding, what do I do at this point? Because he's essentially, she sees that his bones are sticking out through his flesh. She basically goes, yeah, he's essentially dead. Which, interestingly enough, everyone was saying, you know what? It's the bite on the neck that did him in. The bite on the neck might have contributed in some way. Maybe he was a little bit weaker because of the infection. But no, it's not what killed him in the end. It might have been a contributing factor. But in the overall of things, no. The falling off the mountain, that's what killed him in the end. So basically he begs Arya to kill him. She just sits there staring blankly at him. He tries everything. He implores her. He scolds her. He even tries to edge her on by saying, "You know what? I should have raped your sister Red. At least I'd have had one happy memory." It's like, and whoa, time out. It's just one of those moments, especially if you like Stannis. Like, okay, stop making callbacks to the first few episodes. We don't need that. So she sits there, she looks at him, she basically deciding what to do. And I guess that she's thinking of the farmer who he punched and then stole his silver. Because she goes up to him, she takes his bag of silver, and then she just walks off and leaves him. And he's yelling after her, "Kill me, kill me, kill me." You can only imagine the amount of pain he's in for him to be screaming that. So, and it's not like she just decides to walk. She weighs her options. She goes, "You could get better, not unless there's a maester nearby," is essentially what he says. So basically she decides, well, there's only one thing to do in this partnership. So she finds her way to a port somewhere in the Vale. And at first she wants to go north because she probably figures she's going to go talk to her brother John and basically plan out what she should do next, because he is her last living relative as far as she knows. But they refuse to take her north. And then she finds out that the ship is going to Braavos, and she pulls out that coin, that sweet, sweet iron coin that she's had this whole time. And the reaction of the captain is essentially what your reaction would be if a bunch of if a well-known mafioso, if Al Capone showed up and if Al Capone and a couple of his top-ranking guys or like Babyface Nelson, somebody who is like a famous killer. His reaction was literally like if Ted Bundy or somebody turned up at your door and basically said, "Hey, can I use your telephone?" You'd be like, "Yes, please, whatever you want, just please don't kill me." She goes, "Vala Mogulis." She just goes, "You absolutely you must have your own cabin. Take my cabin." It's just, it was very funny. So, how does this episode end? Tyrion is headed off to Braavos. All the important people are headed to Braavos. Tyrion and Varys are headed off to Braavos. Arya is headed to Braavos. Stannis just came from Braavos. We can assume that Daenerys at some point will end up in Braavos. And yeah, everything that's important is sailing off to Braavos, so who knows? And I'm pretty sure that if Brann has any sense, she's going to track down Arya and she's going to sail after her to Braavos too. But to summarize, Littlefinger is going to take over King's Landing. The wall is saved. Yeah. This was, as I said, this was a underwhelming episode. We did not get the epic setups we were promised. Brann's story is still going. At least Anthony Hopkins is in this now. Maybe he can bring an element of class to an otherwise already epic storyline as it was going. Will I watch season 5? Probably, but only out of habit, and curiosity, just to see I'll probably watch the first episode just to see what's happening there, but I'm very skeptical of the way that they're taking the story now. It is it's not, I don't know. The setups for the next season, they don't seem like something that grabs you by the collar and says, "You know what? it doesn't shake you and say, you know what, you've gotta come back next year. We've got so much stuff. It's like, no, here's the stuff you waited a year for. We're gonna open and close it. It's we give you what we want as always, but we give it in a way that you never wanted. So take that, and that's basically this episode in this season in a nutshell. I mean, I'm going to come back obviously and do an entire critique of the season and all of your discussion questions. If you made it all the way here, I am extremely surprised. I'm sorry, I had to change my shirt because the camera battery died and had to go and do this again. Camera battery keeps dying, have to keep coming back and doing this. It's not my fault, it just keeps happening. So, this has been my technical critique. I would rate this episode 10 out of 12. It's not anything epic. It's not the red wedding, it's not the purple wedding. Hell, it's not even the mountain, it's not even episode as compared to the other endings, like the other season finales. No. As I recall, like the other season finales, we had like people's heads getting cut off and like stuff happening, and like even last season finale, we had Theon Greyjoy finally breaking. Like we see the point where Theon finally breaks, and it's like Reek, and you get his sister going, no, you know what? We're gonna go save him. We're gonna make it an epic. We're gonna make it look like it's gonna be an epic thing. Honestly, I don't see any reason to keep watching. I don't think I will, and but honestly, I don't think I will keep watching, and I cannot in good conscience recommend that you continue to watch either. I know that Game of Thrones is a cultural phenomenon, but I have to say, as a show, this was a lackluster season finale. And I've said it again, I'm going to continue to say it. It does not merit your attention. Perhaps season 5, the trailer will grab me and throw me back in, but other than that, this has been my technical critique. I'm sorry to all the fans. I know that you're probably going to yell at me if you see this, or if you made it this far, my congratulations to you. My hat is off to you. You are a trooper. But I will see you in the next review. I've got Korra coming up, and I've got Orange is the New Black. So please look forward to that. And I will see you next time. And now, just as I promised, it's time for that discussion. It's okay. This won't take long. I only had one commenter, Sophia Alacron, a repeat viewer of mine, and thank you very much for coming to this channel over and over again. You said, I do have a few points to make. You can see Mance Raider in the preview for episode 10. Also, you might be speaking a little too soon about the importance of the events of this episode to the overall plot. In fact, you could say that about the entire Wall storyline. What's happening up there will have enormous ramifications for the rest of Westeros, and petty power struggles of King's Landing mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. At least, that's the point they are intending to get across. I will admit that the show has been very uneven about developing the Wall plot. It is a lot more interesting in the books. Jon and Ygritte's romance is also a lot more well developed in the books. That being said, I still couldn't help but get a little bit misty-eyed when she died in this episode. I didn't think it would affect me that much, but it's her last words that did it for me. About how they should have never left that cave. I don't know why, but I found those words to be really sad. Well, dissecting your comment, I have to agree with you. You're right. It was very sad to see their storyline end like that. However, again, you're correct. Their storyline was much more well developed in the books. Here in the show, we see about 5 episodes devoted to their romance, their true romance, and when they essentially betray each other, where Ygritte fires her arrows into him, and Jon betrays her for the Night's Watch, After that, we never really get any of Jon's feelings about Ygritte. He keeps them very close to his chest. You can tell that he loves her, and it seems to be almost Romeo and Juliet-esque, except that our Romeo does not die, unfortunately. And again, you're right, the wall plot has probably not been as well done as it could have been. But let's look at what we're working with. We're working with a bunch of guys either sitting in a castle discussing the wildlings or going out and meeting with the wildlings and interacting with them. And that can get extremely repetitive very quickly in a TV show, whereas in a book, because the Game of Thrones books are first-person accounts from the mind, you get to see all the different perspectives as you go. But you can't do that in a TV show because it's a visual medium. You have to basically bring it up front and tell the people what they're seeing. And in that sense, the wall plot does not work for television, whereas the intrigues of King's Landing work very, very well. You can show people political intrigue and plot devices. That's why House of Cards works so well as a TV show and people love it, because you can see the political intrigue, you can create dramatic tension, and you can create dramatic irony where the audience knows what's going to happen, or the audience knows something that the character doesn't know before they themselves know it, and in that way can speculate and see the intrigues come together and play off one another. The same thing goes for Daenerys' storyline. I'm certain that Daenerys' storyline is far more integral to the plot of the entire Westeros story than we've been led on to believe. And Daenerys is a very interesting character. However, her storyline is very flat because nothing happens there. You can't illustrate all of the intricacies of her learning to rule as well as you can do palace intrigues. And I really do think that's what they're going for in order to keep the show successful, in order to keep people coming back to the show, and in order to keep themselves on air. It's the only way they can do it. And as much as I would love to see the wall develop into something, and I think Season 5 might attempt to do that, for these 4 seasons, it has not been... You literally could have written the wall out of the last 4 seasons, and it would not have affected anything. We could have found out about the wall this season, and basically compressed everything that the last 2 seasons told us into probably even half a season. And you would still get everything about the wall plot that happened. It's all about the characters. The characters are what keep people interested in that. Jon Snow, Sam, Gilly, and as you mentioned, the late Ygritte. These are the ones that held that story together. Ygritte's gone, so I guess all we have left is Sam and Gilly. Jon is just going to become brooding Jon again. That's my opinion on it. I don't know how, I don't know if I don't mean to be condescending or anything, but that's just it's just how I see it in terms of the way they present it television wise, in terms of the way they can present it television wise. They don't have very much leeway, and as such, the wall plot does not work for TV. I do, however, think that the scene with Mance Rayder was extremely important and very poignant. It captured what I would call a book scene in a visual part. Just the two of them sitting there drinking and talking, that is a very bookish scene. And it's because of its visual descriptiveness that it's good. They're talking about the people that they know, and you can tell that they really feel a connection to these people who they lost. And that's what makes it good. So if we get more of those with the wall plot, I honestly think people might be more drawn to it, and people might actually be made to care about what happens at the wall and beyond. At the same time, we've been dancing around this with the wall plot for the last 4 seasons. There's the threat of White Walkers, and every now and then we see White Walkers, but it's always in the background. It's a background threat. It's a foreboding. It's something that people talk about, but nothing has actually happened in terms of the White Walker invasion force. We're still waiting. 4 years. We've been waiting 4 years for the White Walker invasion. Think about that. That's all I don't... I think as soon as the White Walkers and Brann's storyline intersect with the Wall storyline, we're going to get some good chemistry there that makes for good television. Just like with episode 9 with the wildlings attacking, it was a good episode because you get to see the Wall in action. Whereas usually nothing's really happening. It's just Jon Snow is battling a guy who really just doesn't care for him and wants to keep power for himself. And there's not really that great of an intrigue there. It's just Jon Snow versus this guy. We both know how we both see them hating each other. We don't see any background manipulations. It's just there. Yeah. So that's been the discussion. That's been the discussion portion of this video. If you liked what you heard, even if you didn't like what you heard, leave a comment, respond. Again, thank you, Sophia, for leaving a comment. And we will discuss it in the final discussion episode for this series. I'm trying to put it together. It's pending, but it's taking forever to upload. Anyways, this has been my technical critique, and see you next time.